Tonight, Nancy Drew in Death of Innocence.
Welcome to the Death of Innocence unboxing. So, here we go. There's the front, and then the back, and then it's sealed with some kind of plastic cover. I'm not sure if any of these photos are on the internet. Everything else is. Here's a photograph of JonBenet 2 years before that Christmas. And then here's a photograph either that Christmas or the year before. Then another photograph of JonBenet from the book. And here's a picture of Burke and JonBenet decorating the Christmas tree a week or two or more before Christmas. And finally, a picture of Burke and JonBenet with their grandparents, Don and Nidra. And here's a photograph of the table of contents with the 34 chapters. And I've read the first 50 pages so far. So that's Chapter 1, Christmas Day. Chapter 2, December 26th morning. Chapter 3, December 26th midday. Chapter 4, December 26th and beyond. Chapter 5, saying goodbye. And Chapter 6, facing the cameras. Well, after reading the first 50 pages of the book, it doesn't provide a lot of details, so I'm disappointed. I was hoping for something like, we did it, and what are you going to do about it? Have you heard lawyers' advice about testifying? Answering yes or no, and giving brief answers, or as little information as possible? That's what the book is like. If an incident has been mentioned before, then it's mentioned. If not, then it is not. There's little or nothing new. If there's any question about something, then John briefly addresses it. John complains numerous times about the police. The book is obviously written so long after the facts. John remembers stuff like he wants you to believe it, not with his real recollections. There's plenty of him feeling numb and unable to remember things. It strikes me that John is a loner. The book always avoids providing new information. It is like the book was looked over by lawyers and they removed any new information. Or John and Patsy were told ahead of time to avoid details. John wants the killer found, yet he offers nothing new to help find the killer. When he offers an opinion, it's about the police doing a poor job or how unfairly people treated him. So far, there's nothing in the book about how JonBenet was gypped out of her life, all the things that she doesn't get to do because of what happened. It's all basically about John and Patsy. Here's some details that I took note of. Chapter 1. The Ramsey family was awake at 6:30 a.m. on Christmas morning. John took photos of JonBenet and Burke that morning. John planned to meet Mike Archuleta at Jeffco Airport at 7 a.m. He planned to meet Melinda, John Andrew, and Stuart at 11 in Minneapolis. John left for Jeffco Airport, and Patsy said, "Be back for an early dinner." The Ramseys left the Whites at 8:30 or so, and they chose not to go to the Fernies. JonBenet was fast asleep in the car. Burke went to bed at 9:30 p.m. This is generally earlier than what I've stated in my videos, the times, by about a half hour. Chapter 2. Patsy starts the beginning of this chapter. She states that the shower was broken, and that's why she didn't get dressed in new clothes. She says they have to be at Jeffco Airport by 6:30 a.m. She says that she did her makeup, she went to the second floor laundry area and got some clothes, and then she sees and reads the note without handling it, just bent over and read it. She thinks maybe it's from the cleaning lady, Linda, and it's a reminder for the $2,500 loan that she was to give her. The ransom note is rewritten in the book. It's not a photograph of it. Patsy called the Fernies, then the Whites, and told them, "JonBenet is missing. We need help. Get over here." That morning, Patsy is thinking that they need to get the ransom money. That's what was on her mind. The book skips most of the 6 a.m. until 7 a.m. hour. The book states that Officer French, Officer Veach, the Fernies, the Whites, Reverend Roll, and later Detective Linda Arndt and Fred Patterson arrive. They say the house starts to feel like a zoo. The first call that comes in during that 8 to 10 a.m. time frame is Rod Westmoreland returning John's call to state the Visa credit line of $118,000 is set. Chapter 3. John Fernie goes to the local bank with the credit card, and they make copies of the $100 bills. John mentions Jeff Merrick as a possible suspect or being angry. Also that Gary Merriman checks other employees that left Access Graphics recently. Patsy mentions Linda and where Linda lives, and that she needed the $2,500 for rent. 10 a.m. passes and no one called. John Ramsey writes, "I suddenly realize I don't know when the note was written, so I don't know for sure whether tomorrow means the 26th or the 27th. John remembers breaking the basement window during the summer. At some time after 10 a.m., John goes to the basement alone. And there's a problem with that, but I can't recall it right now. He saw the suitcase under the window. He thought it didn't belong there. He thought a kidnapper could have entered through that window. Later, he and Fleet do a bottom-to-top search. John lays JonBenet on the living room floor. He puts a blanket over her so Patsy doesn't have to see JonBenet like this. Patsy fights to get in to see JonBenet. Finally, the police will get help, John thinks. The Ramsey family is now at John Fernie's house. Mike Bynum arrived early with food in hand. Family pediatrician Francesco Beuf is there. The detectives show up and want to interview John and Patsy at the police station. Bynum asked John, "Would you give me permission to make some choices for you and do what needs to be done?" Bynum to the police, "There will be no interviews at the police station." Byron Morgan ends up representing John, and Patrick Burke ends up representing Patsy. Boulder Police Commander John Eller thinks the Ramseys are guilty. DA Assistant Peter Hofstrom ransoms the body. Patsy was age 40 on the day of the memorial service held for JonBenet at St. John's Episcopal Church in Boulder. John Fernie said some words. John Ramsey said something. Santa Claus Bill McReynolds said some words about JonBenet. Afterwards, they flew to Atlanta and stayed with Don and Nidra in Roswell, Georgia. Chapter 6 and my final thoughts of this video. Funeral services were on December 31st, 1996. Fleet White thought the Ramseys shouldn't get attorneys if they're innocent, and that he thought they should go out and say they're innocent. So it was Fleet's idea for them to go on CNN. And John and Patsy agreed to do an interview with CNN. At the end of the interview, Patsy said, "She'll never have to know the loss of a child. She will never have to know cancer or the death of a child." Then John added, "We learned when we lost our first child that people would come forward to us, that sooner or later everyone carries a very heavy burden in this life, and JonBenet didn't have to carry any burdens." So is this projection, is what they call projection? Most people grieve words like she will never experience graduating high school, getting married, having children of her own, etc. But Patsy and John say JonBenet won't have to experience pain like them. Were these words at the end of their CNN interview them justifying strangling JonBenet after she was gravely injured? I wonder. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and the next episode about the JonBenet case next weekend will be finishing up on this book, and then tomorrow night back to the Zodiac Killer case and some good information. See you then.